let me share this really quickly. Just because my time is all sporadic. And that is because I have to wait for my own van. We don't have enough vehicles for our house. So I get stranded at home quite a bit now, reverting back to when we only had one car. Hopefully soon that will change. Okay. All right. So we're going to go into this subject today. I wanted to just kind of talk about the last week of my life and how great that's been. This is the book that I'll be referring to today, called Menopausal Mania, Helping Women Navigate Through Menopause. Now, this is a very, very little tiny booklet. It was only $3. And this girls retreat that I was at, or girls special day I was at, I think like almost every copy got sold, which tells you that the people bringing the teenage girls are in the midst of this in their own lives. So I thought that was really funny that that one was like the one that got sold out at the Proverbs 31 rally I was at. So let me get all my stuff set up here. I wanted to play just a cute little video. Hopefully it'll come through okay through the screen sharing, but I wanted to play a cute little video that I just made today about little T4. And I don't have an outline today. This is just free talking. We're going to talk just about becoming a Nana. That's what I want my name to be. Hopefully T4 gets the memo. But this is brought to you today by Ghost Sour Strip. Thank you to Abby's boyfriend for finding this for me. It's okay. I like it, but it's not as good as Straw Bango. And if my son is watching this, he gets a kick out of me saying Straw Bango for some reason. It's not as good as Straw Bango, but it's pretty good. Always Ghosts. Thank you, Rita. So I'm going to screen share right now, and I'm just going to see if I can play that video. I don't know how the sound will come through, but it's some pictures. So at least you should be able to see the pictures of the newest arrival. Let me click over to it actually, and then see if we can do it. There we go. All right, let's try this. So this is love. So this is love. This is what makes life divine.
You know, you wouldn't be wrong if a lot of times when you went out soul winning and you after talking to some people.
Okay, so I don't know why that one came up. The next one that he was playing, the next sermon yesterday, Let's Weep for Our Nation, my husband preached on. So that came up. Next is the automatic. But yes, correction, Nana. So that was just a little short that I made where I put some pictures. I don't know if you could even hear the sound, but I thought it was a cute little song because, you know, there is the romantic love where you fall in love and you marry your husband, but then there's also the love that comes from having children and the love when you become a Nana or a grandma, you know, all that love. So it's all in there. But anyways, that was just a little short showing you some pictures of him. He actually looks just like my son, Tommy. So Jenna posted something yesterday with like side to side comparisons. We had found some pictures from when Tommy was a newborn, and the resemblance is shocking. They look a lot alike. So that was it. Now, my feelings becoming a Nana, it's different. I will say it's different because it's kind of bittersweet for me in a little bit, because I would have continued to have babies until I was like 60, but my body is like, no, it's just been falling apart. And so my last two pregnancies were really, really rough on me. And I knew then I was already showing signs of what we're going to be talking about today. After I go through this little section, I'm already showing signs of premenopause. My mom had gone through menopause. By the time she was my age, she was going through it. I think the last time she got pregnant, not using any type of preventatives or anything, she was 40, I think the last time she did, or 42. She ended up miscarrying that one, and then she wasn't able to have any more with my stepdad. But statistically, someone who's my age and almost 45, chances are extremely low of even getting pregnant and then even carrying the baby to full term. And my body would say, yes, I agree with that, because I think I'm past that season in my life. So in a way, even though I've had 8 children, you kind of have to mourn a little bit. And I'm not going to say like I was in the throes of depression, but you have to come to terms with not having any more children. And it is a process. It's like just a matter of feeling really sad about it, and then just accepting it and coming to peace with it, and just realizing that that season of your life is over. So now the season of being a Nana is just starting for me. And it was really hard to watch Jenna go through all that pain. And I felt very honored that she wanted me in there. If any of my girls want me in there, I'll gladly be in there. If any of my daughter-in-laws do, but I'm not going to get offended if they don't either, because I know for my husband and I, that was kind of a special sacred moment where we wanted it to just be us two. And so I've never had anyone in the delivery room, with the exception of my husband and then medical personnel. So I've never had, moms, mother-in-law, sisters, friends. I've never had any of that. That was my husband and my choice. We just kind of wanted it to be us two, and every couple is different. So if one of my daughters says, no, I just want it to be me and my spouse, I'm going to respect that, and it'll be fine. But if they say, would you like to be in there? I'm going to say yes. And I'm going to be in there, because it was pretty miraculous. I actually have never witnessed a birth in person, I don't think, besides my own. So I've never actually been in there when any of my sisters or friends or anything have had babies. So it was surreal, because you are getting to see a baby come earthside, and there's something very emotional about that. And Jenna's mom really struggled, because she struggled seeing her in that much pain. And she said, I've been at my daughter-in-law's births when they had their babies, but I've never been here for a daughter. And she was a little traumatized. And I feel like that would probably hold true for me as well. My son did so well. He was there supporting her the whole time, rubbing her back. She had really bad back pain. He was born posterior. He was born sunny side up. So the fact that she only pushed for 25 minutes and he came out sunny side up was she was a trooper. She was pretty strong. And it was just amazing seeing how she kept saying, I can't do this. I can't do this. And we were like, you're almost there. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And she did it. She did it all without pain meds. She was amazing. She was so strong. And just seeing the bond and seeing both of them see their son come earthside and take his first few breaths together was amazing. That being said, it is very different from having children, because we're hands off as grandparents, and I have been following this lady. She's a grandma now. She's a little older than me. We're right around the same age. And she talks a lot about boundaries as a grandparent. And I agree with almost everything that she puts out, because I do think that boundaries are kind of overstated sometimes. And maybe we just get boundary happy, right? And we just start instituting things that maybe are over the top or unnecessary, especially when no one has ever done anything to us, and that's just a personal problem that we need to deal with. But I do believe that mother-in-laws and grandmas need to be careful about stepping over lines. And so I am learning, I've had to learn 2 years to learn how to be a mother-in-law, how to be a good mother-in-law. Obviously, everything I do, I want to be good at. I want to do good at. I want to get better. And as I am almost 25 years into being a wife, I'm much better at 25 years than I was in year one. And I'm hoping that with a mother-in-law and a grandma, as I get further and further into this journey, I just get better and better at it. So I will say the one thing about becoming the grandma is we do have maturity on our side. When we're a young mom at 20, when we're newly married at 20 in our early 20s, we have a lot of immaturity that we kind of have to just grow out of, and we have to get more mature. But now I'm in my mid 40s, so I've got a little bit of maturity and life experience under my belt. And that definitely helps when it comes to me realizing my role. So my role as a Nana is, number one, I'm going to follow the advice that I was given, a very good advice. Don't give advice unless asked. Don't give your opinion unless asked. And this comes to all things raising kids. Now, I will say, especially near the end of her pregnancy, Jenna asked a lot. She asked a lot of advice. And, they knew he was going to be a boy. Do we circumcise or do we not circumcise? Do we do vaccines or do we not? Do we do the IVUP or do we not? And I will say that the hospital respected their wishes very well across the board. And I'm not going to tell what they did or what they didn't do. That's their story to tell. But I will say that whatever they decided, I was behind. I have my own set of beliefs that I have implemented with my children. But now with a grandchild, I'm hands off. It's their choice. They have to do the research. They can ask for advice and, listen to advice when it's given, but it's up to them. Like, the ball is in their court, right? So that being said, that takes a lot of the hard stuff off my plate because I just get to love him. I'm not in charge of correcting him. I'm not in charge of training him. Not now, obviously, as a newborn, as he gets older, gets into the terrible twos and all that stuff. I'm just there to love him. Of course, I'm going to reinforce his parents' correction if it ever comes to that point, right? But right now, I just get to enjoy his baby cuddles. I don't have to worry if he's nursing or not nursing, as I did with all 8 of my children. And I am glad that I was able to be there last week to be that support system for Jenna, because she did have problems nursing him. And she's so much more mature than I was, even with Hannah. Because with Hannah, I'm like, by golly, I'm determined to make this work. This will work. This child will nurse. And I put myself and her through a lot of anguish, mental anguish, emotional anguish, where I should have just done what Jenna did. And she's just pumping around the clock and feeding him bottles. And he's growing and he's happy and he's not screaming and she's not frustrated and she's doing amazing. She's rocking it. And I told her, I said, I am so proud of you because you have done what is best for you and him. And she's like, yeah, I just realized I can't force him to do something. So he has a really bad tongue tie. So he's getting that taken care of tomorrow. There's an appointment. And she's really hoping that he will start nursing, this week, since he's been sleeping so much since he was a little premature. He was 37 weeks. So he was a little sleepy. He's just now starting to come out of the sleepiness. He's alert more. He's awake more. So she's hoping after they get the tongue tie fixed, it's a pretty bad one. And he also has a high palate. So a really high palate and a pretty bad tongue tie. Once they get that clipped, they're hoping that he'll start nursing, but she's not stressing about it. And I love that. I love that she's just going with the flow and she's not putting herself through all this mental anguish. So I was able to be there last week. And even though, she's doing an amazing job, all newborns bring a sense of such huge responsibility and fear to new moms, right? And she grew up in a big family. She has like 10 other siblings. And even Tommy being the oldest of 8, they've both grown up around babies, but there's something entirely different when that baby is yours. So she was, I guess after I left, Tommy sent me a bunch of sweet messages and he was saying that they were it was kind of depressing without me there. And he was like, we just loved having you here. And it was an amazing week because it kind of was like a vacation for me because I basically just cooked for them and then washed the dishes and then snuggled my grandbaby. And that's it. I took their dog for a walk almost every day. It was almost like a mini vacation for me while my girls held down the floor at home. So, it was just a very special bonding time with my grandson, but not only that, with the parents, seeing them become parents, seeing them start into these new roles. And they probably went back to church before they should have, but they wanted to be in church. They wanted to be showing him off. And, Tommy has had it drilled through his head, we're groceries, we don't miss church. And I did tell him, like, take it easy. You don't need to go long, and then she was like, I feel really good. We're going to try it tonight. I'm like, okay. But, a week and a half in, I think, is when they went. But she, like, literally wanted to go right after they got out of the hospital. I'm like, you might need to take it a little easy. So it's really great to see it come full circle, and then to see your children choosing to raise their kids in church around the things of the Lord, under good preaching, being raised with the same convictions and beliefs that they were raised in. So it was really just a great week. But yeah, it's very different because I don't get to take them home either, which is really sad. And I'm so glad I have the schedule now to where I'm only teaching 3 days a week. And then I have the 4th week off. So I'm doing 3 weeks on, 1 week off. And that way I'm determined I'm going to go spend a couple days with them every month, because they live almost 3 hours away. So I'm like, I want my grandson to know me. I want him to grow up loving Nana, doing fun things with Nana. I'm a young Nana. So I have all this life and all this energy. And that's a good thing, because I'm so young. I'm able to pour all of that into my new grandson. So yeah, it's different in the area of we don't make the choices when it comes to our grandbabies. We just get to love on them. We just get to support the parents. We don't have to do the hard things or choose the hard things. And but we can be a good source of information and encouragement in our grandkids' lives, because I know my in-laws and my mother-in-law, she was so over the moon when she's a great grandma now, when Tommy had Tommy, that and she's been wanting daily pictures, and like she wants to be involved even in what she can be, because she's a young great grandma. So she's even an influence still on my kids, and now their kids. So grandparents will always be a good influence, especially if you teach your kids that they are, right? I do think that there are some maybe kids that have strained relationships with their parents. That's going to maybe transfer over in the way that their grandkids see them. And you want to be careful about that, especially if you do have godly parents. All godly parents mess up. All godly parents overstep boundaries. Be careful bringing the hammer down or bringing the axe down on something that really isn't that big of a deal. Sometimes with our hormones and emotions, we tend to exaggerate situations that maybe aren't as big of a deal as we're making them out to be. And I would be very, very careful burning bridges, because if they are godly, now I'm not talking about like horrible atheist parents that want to kill all babies in the womb and whatever. I'm not talking about people that completely don't have the same ideals or beliefs as you and might try to indoctrinate your kids. I'm talking about parents that are honestly trying to follow, even those that aren't saved. There are a lot of good, decent people out there that aren't saved. It's not, there are some saved people that are pretty crummy people. So anymore, I'm seeing that even unsaved people are raising better kids than saved people. So there are some pretty crummy Christians out there. So even unsaved parents, if they have good morals and good ethics, and they can be a good example in your kids' lives, be very careful with just burning all the bridges, because having godly grandparents, especially, and having godly parents is such a big blessing in today's society. People that can help you navigate the hard things. And then when your kids get older, sometimes they won't want to listen to you as the parent, but maybe if they have a close relationship with their grandparent, they will listen to them. So I always want to be that example in my grandkids' lives. I want them to know me. I want to know them. I want to know their likes, their dislikes. And that was what was so great about last week too. I got to observe and learn Tommy the Four. I get to figure out his little sighs and his little noises, and the way he always had his right hand up, either by his face or up over his head. It was super cute. And sometimes he would even do this where he had it like hooked behind his head. It was super cute. So I got to learn all of his little cues when he's hungry, when his diaper needed to be changed, all those things. And I feel very blessed as a grandma to be able to learn that, because I know not all grandparents have that opportunity. And so in that way, I felt like I was learning one of my own kids, just all their little things. And I know not every grandparent can go spend a week with their grandchild. So I felt very blessed with that. But there is a definite different shift with it's different than your kids. And I have a 4-year-old. So I have a 4-year-old, but even I sense the difference between my 4-year-old and my grandson. There's a difference there. And I can see why grandkids get spoiled by their grandparents. That's all I'm going to say. I told Hannah last night, she's enthralled by the baby. At first, she said, when she found out that Tommy and Jenna, at first we thought the baby was a girl for the first half. And that's what the blood test said. And we thought, girl, 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 girl. So we even we're calling her a name and like all this stuff. And then we found out it was a boy by the ultrasound, 20-week ultrasound. Well, Hannah was not happy. She was like, I'm not going to be an aunt if it's to a boy. I don't like boys. She's at her I hate boys stage of life. And so we were like, well, Hannah, you're still going to be an aunt, even if it's a boy. But she's like, no, I'm not. So she was like, I don't like him. Well, she's had to turn around. So like the last couple days, she says now she likes him and she's enthralled. Like she wants to hold him all the time. And last night I told her I was holding him and she was looking at him and just like, oh, he's so cute and saying stuff like that. And I was like, in about 4 years, you two are going to be fighting, because by then she'll be 8 and he'll be 4. And she's like, no, we won't be. But those two are going to be more like siblings, I think, than aunt and uncle, aunt and nephew. There we go. Aunt and nephew. And hey, Serafina. Yeah, it did change really quickly because she was like, I don't like him. Serafina is also Tommy's aunt. So yeah, she was like, I don't like him. And now she loves him. And I was like, you two are going to be fighting soon. And she's like, no, we're not. We won't fight. But I guarantee it, 4 years from now, they'll be fighting. So yes, this Tommy is very, very loved. He has so many aunts and uncles. It's not even funny. He's going to like get everyone mixed up because, oh, it's Debbie. Debbie is Jenna's mom. So, yeah, he's got what, 10 aunts and uncles on your side, Debbie, and he's got 7 aunts and uncles, not counting in-law aunts and uncles. He's got a lot. So when both of our families are together, it's just like hot potato. Like we're just passing him. I want to hold him. I want to hold him. I want to hold him. Like everyone's holding him. It's so funny. But anyways, those are the differences between being a grandma and a mom. And so far, I'm liking it. Debbie's got a little bit more experience than I do. She's got some more years under her belt than I do. And I think for the most part, she lives close to all her grandchildren, which she's a lucky duck. So I got to drive to see Tommy, but she's a lucky duck. She gets to be around them. But let's get into this subject. This actually, Debbie gave me money for it because I didn't have any cash. It's a little $3 booklet and it's very, very small. Now, I was going through this, and one thing, first of all, that I loved about it was it showed me that Joyce Angel is human, just like me, and deals with the same struggles and the same hormones and the same anxiety and the same sin nature and everything that I deal with. Because I feel like with people that we kind of know from afar, we kind of put them on a pedestal in our minds. And the angels are people that I know I do. I have them on a pedestal because they've raised a tremendous family. So for years, for decades, I'm going to say decades, since the time that we had little kids, I knew a couple of his girls are my age. And so I had family in the area of Bourbonnais, Illinois. And anytime I visited my family, I would go to Pastor Angel's church and I would go to youth group. And so I kind of got to know his daughters through like sporting events and fine arts competition, and just great girls, like always smiling. He's always smiling, heart for the Lord. Every single one of his children, I think, are in full-time ministry. People can correct me if I'm wrong, but even if they're not in full-time ministry, they're full-time in church. They're full-time laymen, they're full-time serving. I'm pretty sure that like all missionaries, evangelists, associate pastors, involved in some type of ministry within the church. So I've always listened to his preaching. I've always listened to her teaching because she is one of those older women that I really look up to because she has the fruit that I want. So as I often say on the show, I think it's foolish and I think it's very unwise to listen to people who don't have the fruit you want. So if someone has raised children that have completely embraced everything that the world has, every lifestyle, they've completely turned their back on God. And it's not just one, because I understand sometimes you're going to have a wayward child. Sometimes you're going to have a prodigal. It's a repeated pattern, right? So they're repeatedly turning out kids that are doing this. Something is off in that home. And I wouldn't listen to a single piece of advice that they would give about raising children, especially if they've not humbled themselves and said, we did something wrong. Now, I could listen to someone that was like, you know what, we messed up big time. Like we messed up, but we're doing things differently with our other kids. But if they're like, nope, done everything perfect, and that's how we're going to keep doing it, I'm not going to listen to their teaching. Are you kidding me? I don't want their fruit. So she starts off with the little introduction. Oh yeah, but all that to say, I'm getting ahead of myself. All that to say, this is a family that you kind of think like they're super Christian, but this book proved that they're not. And even a couple examples in here that she gave where they got into really bad fights. Not bad, like they're throwing punches, right? I'm talking verbal. Baptist approved, okay. Verbal fights. It like made me think, oh, they're actually human like us. I love that. So she starts out with an introduction, basically talking about how the verse in Colossians 3:19 has always intrigued her, where it says, husbands, love your wives and be not bitter against them. And she says, there's been different seasons of my life where I thought that applied. You know, in my younger years when the kids were small, I thought that maybe a husband would be better because his wife is too tired at night when he wanted her to be at his best, right? All husbands want us to give them attention, give them time, but we're so tired with young kids, so tired. And then she said, as my children grew older, it occurred to me that a husband might think his wife was giving more attention to the children than to him, because there are different seasons where our children demand so much attention. Now that my time in menopause is over, I'm pretty sure a husband's bitterness could be for all a wife puts her husband through during this tumultuous time in her life. It's just a guess, but going through what I went through, I think it's very probable. She said, you may wonder why I'm willing to bare my soul and share my experience with others. The answer is quite simple. While going through menopause, I needed help and I needed it badly. And I'm glad she's speaking on it, because I do feel a lot of women her age, it was a very taboo subject. And that's probably why maybe she felt like there wasn't a lot of help or there wasn't a lot of information. But on this channel, we're pretty open about everything when it comes to a woman's cycle and fertility and hormones and, you know, times of the month. And we're just very open about that. So I'm also going to be open when it comes to this area of menopause, because I do think a lot of women are struggling. And I'll tell you some things I agreed with in here, and then some things I think that she could have used a little more help, or she could have tweaked a little bit better. And it's areas where, because I have friends that are herbalists, they have helped me tremendously already. And I feel like every woman that's entering into the season of life needs to just get a good herbalist friend, and they need to consult with them, and they need to get on a regimen, and they need to stick with it, because it really does work. And I'm not even like in the middle of menopause. I'm just at the beginning stages, but my symptoms have already drastically reduced by like 75%. So, she cited a book, Take Charge of the Change. She talks about that. For her, it was hurricane winds that went through her life. She did not see how she would ever survive. She told her husband, if I ever get through this, I'm going to write a book. If I needed help, surely there were others who did or would need help going through this inevitable process of life. So if her experience can help any woman who needs help going through menopause now or in the future, she will be pleased. I see this little book and I'm like, why am I not writing books? Because this is just a tiny little book. It would be easy to do. So eventually I just really need to get in that. So she talks about, in the beginning, knowing very little about menopause. She remembers thinking back about instances where there were things that happened with her mom. And she's like, I bet my mom was going through menopause. And she talks about that. And then her mom went to the doctor and was given hormone replacement therapy. Now, this is one area, and she put HRT in parentheses. This is one area I am not well versed in, but for me personally, I try to stay away from synthetic hormones, like synthetic progesterones, synthetic estrogens, because your body is going to react differently to that than it would to the natural stuff that your body already makes. So for me personally, I don't want to go that route, and I'm hoping I can just stay away completely from that in the next 10 years. So, she was like, I didn't really think about it. Menopause would eventually happen somewhere in the very distant future. And just because it was bad for my friend's mom and my own mom, that didn't mean it would be bad for me. And if it was, well, I would just take medicine. Right. But then she talks about she turned 40. And when she turned 40, so she turned 40. We were catching up with which was going on in each other's lives. And she started talking about the strange things that started happening to her when she turned 40. And this got her thinking. So she was thinking maybe, she was just kind of thinking about it. But then that was pretty much it until one day, while on her hands and knees mopping the kitchen floor, she looked up and saw the date on the calendar. Oh no, I'm late. Up until then, her periods were always right on time every time. What was going on? Thankfully, in a few days, her fears vanished and business went on as usual. Phew. And then that continued to be well for several months, but then came the day again when it was, what in the world? I just had a period 2 weeks ago. So they started being very inconsistent. Her periods did. And then she started having horrendous heat flashes. And if you have never had a heat flash, like you do when you're in perimenopause and menopause, they are terrible. You literally feel like you are burning up from the inside out, and you cannot. And then if and when it goes away, you're left drenched in like this cold, sticky sweat. It's horrible. Like, I always heard people joke about it, but until you actually have one, it's not a joking matter. Stop joking about it. It's not funny. And then she went to her husband to a preaching meeting. She tells the story about how her child and the person they were dating got in a heated argument, and her and her husband took different sides. He thought the man was right. She thought the girl was. And then they just kept getting mad. She was so mad about it. So she started having physical things, right? Like the delayed periods, then the hormonal things, the heat flashes, and then just unexplained rage. Like she would get so mad. And she talks about a fight that they get into. So then she made an appointment with her gynecologist, and she explained she was in perimenopause the years before actual menopause takes place. So she says, if I could describe those 10 years, I would say they were akin to a 10-year long labor contraction. A contraction starts off slowly, gradually becomes more intense, and then slowly begins to recede. That's how menopause was for me. 4, 5, 6, and 7 were intense. At year 8, the symptoms slowly became less intense and less often. And then by year 10, I was seeing the light of day and finally began to feel like a normal woman once again. Oh, yeah, that's me with Tommy and Jenna too. I'm always on Jenna's side. I pretty much told them that, like, Tommy, I love you, you're my son, but I'm always gonna be on Jenna's side. Sorry. Yeah, well, that's why God made us so different, right? Because us women, we see it from the woman's point of view, and the men see it from the men's point of view. So yeah. So reading all of this, I am so glad that in my own life, I am well aware of what's happening and what's going on. At the beginning of this year, I started having, right after I turned 44, I started having intense heat flashes. So much so that I felt like I was going crazy. When it peaked, and I've told the story, but when it peaked, my herbalist friend, Sage and Solace Apothecary, she had just started me. She is so amazing. I tell her my issues. She goes on a deep dive and just like, boop, 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 comes up with all these sheets of like what I need to be doing, what I need to be taking, blah, 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 blah. The one thing she has not been able to give me up is ghosts and coffee. I'm sorry. I'm not giving up caffeine. And that's a hard line. I'm not giving it up. So let's work with other stuff, but I'm not giving up my caffeine. Life is hard enough. Okay. I'm not giving up my ghosts. So, she had just started me on teas, tinctures, and different supplements 2 weeks before we went to South Dakota to Pastor Versus for their Valentine's Day banquet. And I was at the height of horrendous heat flashes. Literally from the time I ovulated to the time I started, I every single day would be feeling like my body was an inferno oven. And we were on the plane. It was like the second week of February because it was close to Valentine's Day. So it was still cold out in here in Illinois and South Dakota. But they had the heat blasting on the airplane, which I had never been on an airplane. I made the foolish decision. I almost always wear leggings, boots, jean skirt. I had a tank top on and my sweatshirt. Stupidest decision I've ever made. I should have known on an airplane, walking through the airport, I would be dying because I was already dealing with these heat flashes. One hit me in the middle of the plane ride, and I wanted to jump out of the window screaming because it was so intense and it would not stop, just kept going and going. So much so I felt like I was going to throw up. That's how intense it was. So I stripped off I just as easily as I could. It was dark on the plane, thank goodness, but I managed to get my leggings off. I took my boots off. I took my socks off. I took my sweatshirt off, my hoodie sweatshirt, and I just had a tank top on and my jean skirt. And that helped a little. But since I had just been having all these heat flashes the whole time, my body was just drenched with sweat. So I was just completely drenched with sweat. And I'm like, this is terrible. How am I going to continue on like this for 10 years? I can't do this. Thankfully, within about a month of taking all the teas and the supplements and the tinctures, I started noticing a decrease. And now I only have about one or two, and not only the heat flashes, it was headaches, horrible migraines where they were debilitating. I go right, my right eye, I go blind in my right eye first. And then I know when an ocular migraine is coming. And that's like, sometimes it's every other day. The last 2 weeks I'm dealing with that. So she put me on a tincture specifically for migraines and then a tincture specifically for hormones. And right now I'm doing a chasteberry tincture, but the liver and hormone support is all in one, I think, and then a specific one for migraines. And then I'm also on chasteberry, Shishandra. She has me on vitamin D right now, vitamin K and vitamin D, I believe. And then I take iodine. I'm trying to take iodine for the nodule in my neck, see if that helps. So that's and liver, desiccated liver pills. Is her husband is a butcher, so he gets organ meats and she dehydrates them and then puts them in capsule form. That's really good for your liver as well. So those are all the things I'm taking now. Within a month, a drastic decrease, I'm sorry. And now I deal with 1 or 2 days, maybe one headache a cycle, which it was almost every day for 2 weeks. And then maybe 1 day of hot flashes. So yeah, that's the beginning stages for me. But because I knew I needed to nip it in the bud quickly, I knew I could not live like that for 10 years. It was miserable, completely miserable. And so I highly encourage, and she does talk in here about the physical, what she did. They had prescribed her, all they don't do the hormone replacement therapy anymore. They only prescribe you antidepressants. And for me, I'm not going to take an antidepressant. I'm going to steer clear of that. Anything that can alter your mind. Now, I will say if you are considering hurting yourself, considering hurting others, by all means, take an antidepressant if it's going to help. But for me personally, especially seeing how well these herbal products are working for me, I just can't go down that route. And she didn't either. After the pharmacist, she was prescribed one, but after the pharmacist listed off all the side effects, she left it at the pharmacy and didn't even pick it up because she's like, no, I can't do that. But she does talk about how she did start on a natural one. And let me see if I can see the name. It's called Plus, Plus, by an MLM company called Manatech. Plus is a natural hormone balancer. It's pricey, but she had to do something. So they bought it. She started off taking 1 tablet 3 times a day. They not only helped my emotions, but also helped with the hot flashes and night sweats. And she talks about she got headaches too. So at the beginning, all she did physically to deal with it was she took regular Tylenol during the day for the headaches. Because yeah, I don't know why with menopause we get these horrible headaches. And then Tylenol PM at night for the pain. I don't want to live off Tylenol. Like, I just want to get rid of the headaches. I don't want to dull them or just put a Band-Aid on them. I want to get rid of them. She talks about taking melatonin at night. She had gotten eczema. She had developed trouble with her eyes and she found out it was eczema. He gave her a steroid to clear it up. She found out that stress aggravates eczema, so it was not a surprise she had it so badly. The doctor told her to switch to all scent-free products, which she did. By the time menopause was over, the eczema was also over. So then she just tried to deal with the hot flashes as best she could. She dressed very in light clothes. She started exercising religiously. And I will tell you too, I do believe exercise has helped me as well. I got serious about my health 2 years ago, and it has definitely helped me feel better overall. But even though I was still really healthy this year when I turned 44, I still started developing all these premenopausal things. So I think it's good for us mentally just to move and get out there. So right now I'm running 3 to 4 times a week, trying to get 10,000 steps a day. I'm doing strength training. That's the best when you're in menopause. Running is actually not the greatest for you. So I'm only doing it because I'm training for this 5K, but it actually raises your cortisol. And maybe that's why I'm not losing weight right now. Weight has been one of my hardest things this year to manage. The last 2 years I've been calorie counting, and I don't know if I destroyed my metabolism doing that, but I have to, if I look at a piece of pizza, I gain 5 pounds. I'm not even kidding you. I feel like if I don't count calories and try to keep them below 1,800 a day, I gain weight. And maybe I wrecked my metabolism. That's why I'm trying something different now, just trying to go more low carb and whole foods and seeing if that helps. But with 6 weeks of running, I've not lost anything. So, and I'm religiously running almost 3 miles 4 times a week, something like that. So I'm getting in 12 to 15 miles a week and I'm still not losing anything. It's really hard when you hit menopause to lose any weight. Now, she did lose weight actually because she would get so anxious and flustered, she couldn't eat. I don't have that problem. I don't like food. I'm a foodie. And so I usually remember to eat. So, but that's why she did. And then mentally, she read a lot of books. And then emotionally, it was really hard for her. Her anxiety and her anger was one of the worst symptoms of the premenopause. And I do feel as if not quite yet, because I'm actually, since I'm not postpartum, I'm not pregnant, I'm not nursing, I do feel like I have a handle pretty well on my emotions right now for the most part, almost all month long. I don't really struggle with that. But she does talk about how she started having anxiety attacks and panic attacks, which she never had before, ever. And so I'm affected like with anxiety, or I'm pretty evil. I'm pretty even killed when it comes to that. Yes, my friend's name is Nicole Shepherd and she does sell her products. I told her she needs to become a herbalist coach and she needs to, because I feel bad referring people to her if she's not going to charge. So she does need to charge because this woman puts an incredible amount of time into digging into your specific issues. And then she blends tinctures, like in little glass jars. She puts special blends of the herbs that will help that. So in my migraine one, it's like, I can't even remember all the things in it, like milk thistle, St. John's wort, maybe bladder or something. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm taking, but it's helping, whatever it is. So she has specific blends for your specific problem. So maybe you get cold a lot, right? Like I tend to be more hot. Maybe you tend to be more cold and your skin is clammy, where my skin is dry and I tend to be hot. So there's different herbs that will help each problem. So yes, her name is Nicole Shepherd and her business name is Sage and Solace Apothecary. And you can find her on Instagram or Facebook. And if you reach out to her through a private message, tell her that I sent you, but then, even if she does a panel for you and says, okay, it's, $50 to do a panel on you, she will not let you down. She will dig into your problem. She will find the specific blend that you need and tailor it exactly to your body and what it needs. I mean, it is night and day difference since I started taking the stuff that she did for me. I know I talk about it a lot, but it's literally helped my life in a positive way. My life is too busy and it's too full to be dealing with horrible things like heat flashes and migraines. I can't do it. So yeah. And then spiritually, she talks about how she just prayed and prayed and prayed. And mentally, it was, I think the biggest thing for her was just the anger. She had the anger welling up a lot. And she tells about a couple different situations in there. And yeah, so that was the biggest thing. But anyways, then she talks about, she felt like God had forsaken her. And she was always asking God, please, show me that you love me and show me that you're still there. And he would send along little things to help, like a song here, or, the still small voice. She got some advice from older women and some verses that she claimed that really, really helped her through this. And she would pray a lot. And she was alone a lot because her kids were in high school. They were in school at the Christian school. So she was home a lot. So she would pray a lot. She'd go into her closet and pray. She would lay on the floor and pray. And she actually says at the end, she said, there were times I was convinced it was Satan's last ditch effort to ruin my marriage, to ruin the ministry of Faith Baptist Church, and to discourage all of our children in their service for the Lord. And I will say this, he warred valiantly. For whatever reason, there is a season for menopause. It will come. It will come sooner or later. It may come quietly, vehemently, or somewhere in between. Whatever the case, my prayer and my hope is that something I went through will help you navigate your menopausal journey a little easier than I did. So it's just a totally little booklet, but it had a lot of, for me, my biggest takeaway was, wow, she's human, just like I am. And it was encouraging to know that even those who you look at as a mentor and you look at as like, I want to be like her one day, right? It's encouraging to know that they struggle with things. They struggle with life and they struggle through hormones and crazy feelings and anxiety and depression. And we should know this looking at all the stories of people in the Bible that were great Christians yet struggled. Paul struggled with a thorn in his flesh. David struggled. I mean, look at his Psalms. Someday he's on the mountaintop, the next day he's in the valley, like bemoaning life. And then we've got Job, one of the biggest examples, and some of the things he said. And then God basically told him, man up, man up. Don't be sitting around complaining about this. Who are you? Who are you to complain about this? So I think for me, it was just good knowing that we all go through this. It's a rite of passage. And I am determined in my life that whatever season I'm in, I am going to figure out what needs to be figured out so that I can enjoy my life, right? So I can live a full life. I can be involved in my grandkids' lives without losing my cool or my composure all the time. And, I can have fun and, I can laugh and I don't want to live in a state of perpetual anxiety or fear or whatever. So my biggest advice, if I were to write a book, and like I said, I'm at the beginning stages, who knows, it might get really bad. And then you're going to be like, Sandra, go watch the show you did about menopause. So it might get really bad, but I do see the drastic difference in my physical symptoms I was having from, let's see, February, I started it the beginning of February. So February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. So 8 months now I've been doing this. And it's just incredible seeing the difference in my moods, in my migraines, in my heat flashes. And I'm hoping that this will just kind of slowly fade off in the distance without me even noticing too much more since I am taking these and I don't think like herbs, I don't think they start losing their effectiveness, right? So they're going to continue working as long as you're doing the protocol. So it's not like they're just going to be like, well, I'm done. Can't help you any further. Herbs continually work. So our bodies don't become immune to them. I don't believe. So I'm going to continue on this protocol. I think the only thing Nicole would like me to do is ditch the caffeine, but that's not happening. So sorry, Nicole, love you, but I know my limits. And part of me being happy and enjoying my life is caffeine. So I know my limits. But anyways, I hope that was a little bit of a help. I would just suggest getting a good support system if and when you start going through this, asking for help if needed, knowing your limitations. If you're doing too much and you just can't, cutting back. For me, that's kind of what I did this year, knowing I was going to become a grandma and I want to be involved in my grandkids' lives. I cut back on my teaching, right? I'm limiting it to 3 days only, and I'm limiting it to 3 weeks out of the month, not the full 4 weeks. So I want to be around even for my adult kids. And that is one way that I can do this. And we have lots of exciting things on the horizon, even for my adult kids I still have at home. So I want to be fully invested and fully there for all of them. But that is all I have for today. So I hope you're able to see that slideshow and my cute little grandbaby at the beginning. And I hope you have a great week. We should be back on regular schedule now. Actually, next Monday, I might have to record something and premiere it because we're going to be going to Tanner's Orchard next Monday. Next week is a busy, busy week. So we have a conference we're going to where my grandbaby will be. So of course I want to go to that. Lots of stuff going on. But next Monday we'll be at Tanner's Orchard. So I might have to record something and then premiere it. Life is busy. But this week, go love your husbands. Go love God, first of all. Go love your husbands. Go love your kids and love them well. And we will see you guys